We are moving on to one Mina Kimes. And once again, I think she just put on a clinic of fact-based analysis that I think that the VAULTRONs and Flock Nation and everybody can enjoy. So recently she was on with Dave Damshek, who I know him from all of his NFL Network days. I don't know if he's still there. But he was on with Mina Kimes, and he asked her kind of two questions revolving the Super Bowl. Because Bobby, once the second preseason game is done, people are going to be looking past the third, and we're going to for sure be getting into prediction season big time. And it's going to be, who makes the playoffs, and then all the way up until the Super Bowl. But Mina is getting a little bit out ahead of everybody else with her predictions. And Dave asked her, like, who do you think would be two fun teams to match up in the Super Bowl from the AFC and NFC? And then he wanted to know, who are your actual teams that you're actually predicting to make it to the Super Bowl? It's not shocking who our two teams are, but Dave, who, by the way, is a very open Steelers fan, although he doesn't have much to talk about recently. I do remember back in the day, he talked a lot of trash, but now he's had to be a little bit more quiet. Anyway, not surprisingly, she picks Ravens and Eagles. He lets the Eagles things go. Like, of course, that makes sense. Sure. But then he's like, but I want you to justify the Ravens. He pushes back. She stays solid and steady, undeterred in her pick. Here we go.
Actual Super Bowl 60 matchup.
I believe I went with the two best teams in the NFL, the Philadelphia Eagles and the Baltimore Ravens.
Talk about the Ravens in a conference that still includes the Chiefs and the
Ravens are stacked. Okay, so if you're looking at the top of the AFC and you have, I think correctly, the Chiefs, Bills, and Ravens, right? Bengals are kind of outside of that because of their defense. In my mind, the Ravens clearly have the best defense of the bunch. I think they have a top 3-4 defense that was really repaired. They really fixed things in the second half of last season. I think they're going to be even better this year.
It's wild that just mid-season they were being had, and I was saying halfway through the season last year, are you guys watching the games though? I know Lamar Jackson's super fun and everything, but they can't stop anybody when they have to stop somebody. Then suddenly they moved Kyle Hamilton and they were a completely different team. Now they doubled down at the safety spot.
Added a Jair Alexander. We'll see how much he plays. But yeah, I'm pretty high on that Ravens defense, Ravens offense. Listen, we could talk about, the postseason and some of the foibles and the execution errors that they seem to have.
We should talk about the postseason, Mina. I know you don't like a quarterback wins in the postseason as something that matters, but it matters. Me and Nick Wright agree.
They're the best team. I really believe that they're the best team in the AFC. The offense is basically the same.
Yeah.
I think the play callers are so good. Todd Monken to me is like one of the great NFL stories. So the thing about the postseason is once we get there, we can say who's injured, what are the matchups like, etc. But this time of year, all you could really do is just try to pick the two best teams. And I really believe those are the two best teams in football.
Boom. Like, I don't know what he was doing when we should talk about the postseason, Mina. I agree with Nick Wright. I don't know what that was all about.
You know what it was? It was, and I think she has this in her Twitter bio, if I'm not mistaken, or used to, doesn't anymore, does not appreciate the quarterback wins as a statistic and metric that's tracked the way that it is. And I believe that's the context there.
Okay. Well, listen. She's right in talking about these rosters. Look, ESPN a while ago ranked the Ravens the #1 roster. It's not without its weaknesses. We've talked about them ad nauseum. Everybody's worried about right guard. We've talked a little bit about the weak side linebacker. We've talked a little bit about Tyler Loop as a rookie. I mean, Cordell Woodland was just on here and said we're going to need to be patient. What is most important is that he kind of finds his consistency by the time we hit December, all that kind of stuff. And so, yeah, you can be Dave or any other number of national analysts or even local ones. What's that?
Skeptics.
And listen, I don't fault anybody who brings up the Ravens postseason history. It's the final hurdle of Lamar Jackson's career for sure. That being said, what happened in the past does not dictate the future. In fact, in my view, when you fall short in the past, if it does have any influence on the future, It's more motivation. It's more learning experience, all that kind of stuff. So when she says, yeah, like injuries can happen, postseason psychological things can come up. But at the end of the day, as an analyst, that's all noise when it comes prediction time. It's all noise. And maybe when we get closer and we have a better feel for the makeup of each team, fine. But she's like, I'm just going to cut through all that noise and I'm picking the 2 best teams. And Bobby, I don't think anybody can really argue that the Eagles and Ravens are, if not the top 2 teams, certainly in the top 5. There's no way either one of them's out of the top 5. Maybe I don't know, like a complete team, like it's really hard. I feel like they're 2 of the most complete teams. And so what's bananas to me is what Cordell Woodland said and then what she just projected, which is that it's I'm trying to, let me see if I can go to this. I'm trying to imagine the Ravens offense maintaining itself from last year, which was probably number 1 and number 3 in all major offensive statistical categories. You have a 2-time, should be 3-time MVP quarterback. And then we're talking about a defense that Mina is saying would be top 3. The Ravens defense was number 1 in a gazillion categories, which I have up on the screen come weeks 13 through 18. And Cordell Woodland, based off of him watching them right now against last year's number 1 offense, he's like, oh yeah, the defense is going to be good. So it's hard not to pick the Ravens when you expect it's all the offensive players are returning from last year, save 1. And now you're saying that the defense could be top 3. It's like, how do you not feel pretty good despite all the last postseason woes and say, hey, yeah, I think I'm going to pick this Ravens team to make it.
Yeah. Last year, had they not floundered defensively, this graphic, the first 10 weeks, you're probably not going on the road to an environment like Buffalo and Western New York, Sarah, in the divisional round game. You're probably not having to do that. You may have to, maybe depending on how things went, and this is all obviously in the past, maybe you ended up going there for an AFC Championship game instead. But that entire postseason run, the seeding, all looks different if that defense was even average those first 10 weeks. And so assuming that they will be at the floor, hopefully, average compared to what they were last year, given the changes, given the stability that they left off with last year and the holes that they tried to fill this offseason, then you'd think that they're not going to be staring at 0-2 first and foremost, and they're not going to be playing from behind, if you will, which it felt like all throughout last year, climbing their way back into contention for the AFC North, which they wrapped up those last couple weeks.
Absolutely. And, so we've got Cordell Woodland in the first part of the show talking about it from a beat reporter perspective that's there every week. He even had to hold himself back. He's like, man, it really sounds like I'm gassing them up. He's like, I don't mean to, right? Then you got Mina Kimes, who's like this numbers analytics person. And then Bobby, you caught this earlier today, John Gruden, who has been to several training camps throughout the NFL. And so he has been able to not just see the Ravens, but he's been able to compare them to other camps he's been at. And is it surprising that when he's asked who are the teams that stood out most, that Baltimore comes to mind?
What's impressive out of all the camps you've been to?
Well, Baltimore and Detroit are really good teams.
Yeah.
Baltimore is the real deal. Harbaugh has established a culture, a winning edge of an environment. And they have this sign that says, play like a Raven. They play their asses off, man. They prepare really good.
That's arses to you, Coach Gruden.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that was courtesy of Pardon My Take. And I don't think Cordell should feel bad.
Yeah.
about him kind of gassing up this team, because there's a lot to like. But as Roquan Smith always says, paper champs don't get you very far this time of year.
Yeah.
The conversations have been had. They'll continue to be had. It's the Baltimores, the Phillies, the Kansas Cities, the Detroits, We'll see outside of that who has something to say about it. DraftKings Sportsbook, in terms of AFC Championship odds and AFC Champion odds for the upcoming season, has the Bills in the front row seat, plus 340. Ravens are right there with them. So it's the Bills and Ravens interlocked with similar odds, these same exact odds. Chiefs come in at plus 425, and then after that, there's a pretty big gap between, the Chiefs or the top three and the likes of Cincinnati, Denver, Chargers, Pittsburgh, so on and so forth. So respect is earned, and they'll have to say something about it. But for right now, Sarah, the Chiefs were obviously last year's AFC champion. And it looks like right now the Bills and Ravens, for whatever it's worth, according to the odds makers, have the front row seat.
Well, and that's probably this right here, this graphic and this AFC conference is probably the biggest threat to Mina Kimes' prediction coming true. Like, I think she's right. The Ravens are one of the best teams roster-wise. The difference, though, is I feel like Philly's conference is not the gauntlet that the AFC poses to the Ravens. And so this brings up kind of a interesting kind of narrative that's been going out there about the Kansas City Chiefs. The Ravens definitely need to find a way to get past the Bills and to get past the Chiefs, because those are the two teams that have knocked them out, minus the 2019 year that we just went over with the Titans. So I believe the Ravens for sure can beat the Bills in the postseason. That game it just ticks me off that the Ravens lost that. I feel like they should have and could have won that game. Maybe even the Chiefs the year before. The game plan by the coaches, whereas we've covered it, it was not ideal. They took themselves out of the game. But so here's this national narrative that's beginning, and I wanted to get your take. Many people have said that they believe that the dynasty days of the Chiefs are in jeopardy. So I'm going to play Colin Cowherd. He kind of articulated. He's one of a few guys that have said it. So listen to this and why he thinks the Chiefs' dynasty days are in jeopardy.
Everybody, myself included, says the dynasty is over in Kansas City starting this year. It doesn't mean they're not going to be great. It doesn't mean they won't get to another Super Bowl. It doesn't mean winning is over. But they only hoist one, and Mahomes is older and more expensive. There is one Travis Kelce, and he's probably in his last year. Chris Jones isn't getting any younger. And the truth is, Mahomes' coach is 67, and I love Andy, but the chance of him lasting 6 to 7 more years physically is probably very small. So dynasties just don't happen when you've got a stacked division, because you're going to lose some close games. Last year, the Chiefs were 11th in point differential, 11th in the league, 11th. So they dominated the margins, and they deserve it. But now Bo Nix with Sean Payton is in year 2, and Herbert and Harbaugh is year 2. And the Raiders, Chip Kelly, Geno Smith, Pete Carroll, Max Crosby, Brock Bowers. That is a really good 4th place team. Ashton Genty could end up being, what are the odds on him being rookie of the year at running back? So my point is, when you start looking at dynasties, LeBron dominating the East, Saban dominating the SEC, this is not a shot at Kansas City. It's the reality of now you got Hall of Fame coaches in the division, Pete Carroll, Sean Payton, Jim Harbaugh. Now the one-of-one Travis Kelce probably has a year left. Chris Jones and Andy are not getting easier. And let's be honest about Mahomes. He's already got blown out in 2 Super Bowls. He's been blown out in 2 Super Bowls. Why? It's not because he's a bad quarterback. It's because they unraveled, because the O-line, which, by the way, is getting rebuilt for a 3rd time, let him down.
All right, Bobby, your reaction. Are you buying what Colin is selling and some other national guys, their hot take that their dynasty days are in jeopardy?
Not
Maybe
quite.
Yeah.
Can't quite bring myself to do it, Sarah. They have played for a Super Bowl in 5 of the last 6 Februaries. And they've won several of them. Yes, they've been blown out in a couple of them. Yes, that's obviously hurt the Mahomes dynasty when it compares to Brady's in the past, but they are there every single year, and I expect them to be among the AFC's best this upcoming season too. I hear what he's saying with the Mahomes contract structure. I hear what he's saying and sort of the downtick that Travis Kelce is right now physically and where he's at compared to other tight ends. And Andy Reid certainly is not getting any younger, nor is Chris Jones. And they were pedestrian at times last year, but then they're not when it matters. And so I can't sit here and tell you that if Colin's point is that they're still going to be winning and they're still going to be making appearances in the Super Bowl game, how is that dynasty over?
Well, I guess it's because they have to win it, because you're competing with the Patriots in the rings there.
That's fine. If you're compared to the Patriots dynasty, yeah, it's night and day.
Yeah.
But 5 of the last 6 with no signs of slowing down in terms of when it's crunch time and the lights are brightest, I can't get behind that.
I'm glad you said in terms of, because there are signs, like they're not as dominant, right, as like when they had Tyreek Hill and Mahomes was on his rookie contract, all of that. And so like, and I also hear what he's saying. Like, it's not like he has no valid points. Like, again, the AFC West isn't like the best division in football, but it also isn't what Tom Brady was going up against every year. I mean, think about it. Against the Jets, I think maybe once or twice during Tom Brady's career at the Patriots, like the Jets were actually like good. I think one Rex Ryan team beat them, but like the Jets were like, okay, that's 2 wins. The Miami Dolphins were like perpetually average. And so it's like, okay, those are usually 2 wins. Buffalo, until Josh Allen got there, like Buffalo was not good for the majority of those years. And so, and he went on, he talked about LeBron in the East versus LeBron in the West and all that kind of stuff, or Urban until Saban got to the SEC, all that kind of stuff. And so, you know, I think the AFC West is better. Who knows what Bo Nix is going to become? I thought he had a good rookie year. So point taken. But at the end of the day, like Andy Reid was recently on with Kay Adams at Up and Adams, and she was asked about all the noise. And he's like, well, we don't listen to the noise. And he's like, at the end of the day, he's like, my players just know how to win when it comes down to it, you know, and like the game is on the line, they know how to win. And so that's fine. You can talk about the AFC West all day. You can talk about the injuries they've sustained all day. And you can talk about the offensive line, all of that kind of stuff. But they still figure out ways to win. They didn't do it in the Super Bowl, but they got to the Super Bowl, which is squarely in the Ravens' way. So I'm not buying it yet, but I will say, because they got blown out last year, if the Ravens are able to beat them this year and they don't even make it to the Super Bowl, then I think this argument has a little bit more credibility.